For decades, luxury and premium brands were built on aesthetics. There's this perfect world where scenes from Hollywood movie are recreated, and people package that and put it in TV magazines and really go out and build these incredible luxury brands, right? And their ability to produce this incredible content and incredible design aesthetics was actually a moat for a really long period of time because it was really hard to do that. And for young brands and young creative people to go out and produce that would be very, very difficult and extremely expensive. And that's perhaps why usually when we think of luxury brands or traditional luxury brands or aspirational brands, it takes me more than maybe 2 or 3 decades to go out and build that because it was much more about heritage and not about innovation. But that's not the age that we are living in today, right? Like, because AI can go out and sort of produce anything, and for a creative person or a creative brand to break out wouldn't take as much time today that it used to maybe 5 or 10 years down the line or 5 or 10 years ago. We're entering a very, very different era, one where there is no longer a very high barrier to go out and produce high quality content and high quality brand assets because it's available to everybody. What maybe a Gucci or a or maybe another brand can do, a seller from Sarojini can go on to Nano Banana and go out and create that. So my big question is not what AI can do today, but what we have to do to go out and build differentiation, because when these tools are going to be available to everybody, it's no longer going to be about barriers to entry, but rather barriers to building brand and emotional connections, right? And the first level of democratization that we have really seen in the last few years is distribution through platforms like AI, through platforms like Instagram and YouTube. We've seen that distribution has actually been democratized. And what we're living in today essentially is that content creation and brand building is being democratized, and anybody, as I said, can go out and sort of build that out, right? So we're crossing this age where we have to go out and build things which are beyond aesthetic. But what does that mean? And in the words, the true words of the sage of Silicon Valley, if you've heard him ever speak, Naval Ravikant, he says AI can generate everything except taste. And that for me is the defining subject or defining topic for the next 10 years to sort of come. Because in this age of AI, taste is going to be the most cherished skill that we are going to go out and see. And this is something that I've been very intrigued with through the last 2 decades of my journey of going and building brands and going and building and going and creating. The big question on my mind is how do you go out and hone the hottest skill of our era right now, which is taste, a mix of judgment, curation, and intuition, right? Because unlike other skills, taste cannot be learned, it has to be cultivated. And that's really, really interesting because there is no linear way to do that. There's no class that you go out and take to get to being more tasteful or rather being cooler, right? Like, so how do you go out and do that? And there are series of things that you can do to that, but these are the 5 things that I think would help you understand what taste is and go out and cultivate it. And number one is taste dramatically improves when you consume excellence. All right. So for you to go out and produce great taste, you have to go out and consume tastefully. You have to go out and raise that bar very, very high on things that interest you and things that intrigue you. And filter out what you think is not going to be worth it in terms of nourishing your creativity, and actively block things that are going to degrade you. So doom scrolling, for example, not all doom scrolling is great, but I was just asked that outside this, what is my biggest inspiration? I think I get the best ideas from Instagram, right? Possibly because the kind of content that I go out and filter and consume gives me great leverage and advantage to go out and then produce great things for the world. The second thing is you have to develop this healthy obsession about things that intrigue you. And this is very, very important because it's not about being a generalist today. It's much more about being having this healthy curiosity to go out and dig deeper or dive deeper into things that really sort of interest you. Going down this rabbit hole of topics that nobody else is doing and really thinking yourself as Alice in Wonderland is something that's going to produce and cultivate great taste. The third thing is that taste requires you to double down on your uniqueness. And this is something a little bit harder that we find or deal with because um, the things that you thought are different about you or the things that you think are odd about you are actually what is really, really special. And the imperfections of those things have to be really celebrated. And we're sitting in I mean, it's ironical that I'm sitting in a class where everybody's wearing the same things. So perhaps that's the irony in this current situation, because I believe that what you are really unique with, what you feel that, oh, why do I think this differently in a different way? That's really incredible. So don't let that go. It's not about being same in this current era. It's actually about being, it's much more about standing out and being unique and going and sort of doubling down on that uniqueness and holding on to that, because as you graduate and be part of the bigger world, the world tends to templatize you into thinking the same way, and you tend to lose those sharp edges that you have that stand out. So don't let that happen. And the fourth thing is taste requires you to actively create, because you just can't be a consumer anymore of things. You have to participate in this process of creation, because when you do that, you get much closer to the audience that you're creating for. And if you're not closer to the audience which you're creating for, then you're just a passive consumer. And the beautiful thing about you going and creating something is that that creative process actually compounds your learning, because you get this active feedback about what really is working and what's not working, and what are things that you're really, really good at. And finally, for me, taste is equally about leaving things out as much as it is about curation. It's much more about editing and trying not to do everything, but trying to do something very, very specific, right? Because taste requires you to work in a constraint. And that'll always be the case, right? Why do you think today, when we look at retro, certain filters or certain postcards or these Polaroids are in? Because they work sort of in a constraint. And that's the case with sort of every other skill that you also have. And in a world obsessed with prompt engineering, cultivating taste is going to be beyond aesthetics, and taste soon is going to become the holy grail of creation and being successful with your creativity. Thank you.